This is Our News, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, police investigating a double murder after two relatives are gunned down in a barbershop. Plus, a candlelight vigil to remember our four sisters of the Labor Day tragedy. And the DNA's deputy leader suspicious of government's proposed increase in gaming tax.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Nolt, and thanks so much for joining us. Off the top tonight, two men are dead in what police believe to be a retaliation killing. The double homicide taking place before patrons in a barbershop on Jerome Avenue this morning. And as police continue their investigations into the country's latest homicides, they are appealing for your assistance in locating the suspects. Another family is left visibly distraught after two of their loved ones were gunned down in a barbershop this morning. Police say the two relatives, who are known to them, were at Supercuts barbershop around 10 a.m. Saturday when the incident took place.
We've been told that shortly around that time, a vehicle pulled up at this location. Two persons emerged from the vehicle, both wearing hoodies, one a gray hoodie and one a blue colored hoodie. They entered the establishment, produced weapons, and opened fire on both victims who were being served by the barbers.
Our news understands both men were shot multiple times about the body. When EMS personnel arrived on the scene, they pronounced one of the men dead, while the other was rushed to hospital, where he later died. A portion of Jerome Avenue was cordoned off as residents gathered, curiously watching police process the area looking for evidence. Meantime, Chief Superintendent Cash revealing that this fatal shooting is in fact gang-related.
We know that from time to time these criminal gangs would retaliate against each other. And it's my information that this may be that sort of retaliation. Again, the investigation is early in its stage, and we'll have to probe further so that we can unravel exactly what happened here at this location.
The head of the Central Detective Unit says even as police increase their presence in the hotspot areas in the hopes of quelling any gang violence, the criminal element simply won't rest until they get their intended target.
We have operational teams already out. If you know, yesterday we mounted a special operational team just to deal with this type of criminality. And those teams are in and out of all of these hotspots trying to prevent and dismantle this type of organizations.
Now, as police carry out their investigations, they are appealing to members of the public with any information on this incident to come forward. This double homicide now pushes the country's murder count to 43 for the year. Well, exactly 1 week after the Labor Day tragedy resulting in the death of four women, and family members, friends, and supporters returned to the scene of that tragedy yesterday evening for a candlelight vigil. Even the inclement weather did not stop the joint event, which was put on by the National Congress of Trade Unions of the Bahamas and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas Trade Unions Congress. Tammy Gibson, Diane Gray Ferguson, Kathleen Fernander, and Tabitha Hay were all killed last week Friday when a truck lost control and plowed into participants of the Sarandal Fox Labor Day March. 24 people, including children, were also injured. As mourners gathered last evening, they sang hymns, prayed, and comforted each other. Social Services Minister Lanisha Roll was among those in attendance.
By us coming together tonight, Bahamians, we are showing a level of faith. We are still showing that we trust in God in the good times and in the bad times. We'll remain together. And what happened at the end of that passage, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus brought Lazarus back to life. I believe that on that day that the Lord has appointed, we are going to see our sisters again. They will rise again.
PLP Senator Fred Mitchell was also on hand to pay tribute to the fallen victims, who are now named Our Four Sisters. And in the wake of that candlelight vigil, the country's traffic fatality count climbed by one. According to police reports, a man was attempting to cross the southern lane of the Tonic-Williams-Darling Highway around 2 this morning when he was struck by an Acura TSX and a Dodge truck. Paramedics were called to the scene and the victim was transported to hospital. However, he would later succumb to his injuries. Now we are told that both drivers remained on scene and are assisting police with their investigations. Meantime, an overnight shooting leaves one man in hospital. According to reports, a man was at his home on Joe Farrington Road shortly after 11 Friday night when he was approached by a gunman who demanded cash. But police say the gunman was unsuccessful in obtaining his demand and shot the male before running away. The victim was transported to hospital where he is listed in serious but stable condition. Investigations continue. On to other news this evening. With a proposed sliding tax on gaming operators that could see them paying as much as 50% rate of tax, Deputy Leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Orinthia Komolafe, says she finds it difficult to accept government's reasons for imposing the tax, with Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest stating that it was a matter of equity.
I think one of the challenges that I have with this position by the government is the fact that the government can just get up one day and say, I'm going to impose this level of taxation on a particular sector or industry. Now, in this instance, though, I believe that the Minister of Finance is playing on the emotions of the Bahamian people based upon what he perceives their view is toward gambling, based upon the gaming referendum, etc. But he's also saying that it's equitable because the amount of funds that this industry is bringing in, and in his words, what he perceives to be the impact it has on the social aspect of the Bahamian society justifies the government's move in this place.
Komolafe, an attorney and financial professional, also takes issue with the comparisons to other jurisdictions with high gaming taxes.
The other challenge that I have with his conclusion is the fact that he is using benchmarks from other countries, other jurisdictions like Monaco, like Miami. But what I found interesting about that was when questioned as to whether this scale of taxation was on lottery earnings or was it just on gaming or was it on casino type gambling that the gaming operators engage in, he couldn't answer that. He said he would have to go back to the gaming board to confirm that, and that's concerning because you can have a case where you're comparing apples with oranges. And even more disturbing is the fact that you stand on the ground that this is equitable when the casino operators are not subject to the same level of taxation.
And we will take a break here, but still ahead on our news. A popular motivational speaker and Pan-Africanist set to tour the Bahamas, and a contract signing in Andros that's set to revitalize the sponging industry. Those stories and more coming up when our news returns.